So you're thinking about retirement, but you're not sure if it's the right time. Well, in this video, I'm sharing 4 reasons why you should retire as soon as possible. Hi, my name is Jacob Duke. I own a financial planning firm, and through the conversations that I have every day with people just like you, I've discovered that many people often retire much later than they otherwise could have. So I wanted to share these 4 reasons with you around why you might want to retire soon. The first reason is time. When we think about time, it's one of the most valuable resources we have around us. In fact, when we compare it to money, it's actually a little bit different. Here's why. Whenever you have money, you can spend it, but you can also earn it back through either working or some sort of investment. But what about time? Time is different because once you spend it, once you use it, you can never get it back. It will never be added on to the end of your life again. There's nothing that you can do to help get that back. So that's why whenever people say time is money, I might disagree with them just a little bit. I might say that time is not money. In fact, I think that time is greater than money. Again, because you will not be able to get it back once you spend it. So, whenever you start to evaluate this in terms of your retirement plan, don't forget this. Whenever we look at the life expectancy tables for people that are in the United States, we can see that the average life expectancy is around 77 and a half years. Now, it's different for males and females. In fact, males it's about 75, and then for females, it's just over 80. So, whenever we think about this, we have to consider, hey, when am I going to retire? Am I going to retire at 60 or 65 or 70? And how much time does that give me in relation to when I could pass away? If you actually retire at 60 and you do the math on this, what you can see is you have about 22% of your life left. If you think from 60 until 67, you have about 22% of your life expectancy still remaining. Now, if you push out your retirement date to 65, that pushes you all the way down to 15%. Now, if you go even further, all the way to 70, and you retire at 70, and your life expectancy again in the US is about 77 and a half years, that puts you at 9% of your life is still to be lived. So, what you've got to do is evaluate, hey, how much of my life is worth living still working? How much value do I place on not having to work and actually being able to go do the things that I would like to do? So that's something that you're going to have to decide. But if you think about it in these terms, hey, I'm not getting time back. I'm not going to be able to recapture that once it's gone. This might push you to retire even sooner than you originally thought. The second reason to retire as soon as possible is because of your health. In fact, this is one of the resources, in my opinion, that is also valuable, just like time and money. It's your health. And what happens here is you don't realize how valuable it is until you don't have good health, meaning you want to go on a trip. If you're unable to do that, you would wish even more that you could go on that trip, as opposed to the fact that whenever you're able to go do whatever you would like, you kind of end up taking that for granted. If you ask anyone who's retired and kind of gone through this transition and perhaps lost their health over the years as they've aged, one of the things that they're always going to say is go while you have the chance. So go and do what you want to do while you have the health and the opportunity to go do it. So your health is one of the biggest factors. And so whenever we think about this in terms of how does this tie into your retirement structure, well, we've got 3 different phases typically that we like to look at. We've got your go-go years, we've got your slow-go years, then we have your no-go years. So each of these different periods of time actually will require less spending. So on the front end of retirement, typically that's going to be your go-go years where you're going and exploring, you're doing all the things you've ever wanted to do. You're going on the trip or the bucket list thing you want to go do. You're doing that during this time period. So kind of the first third of your retirement is in what we call the go-go years. It's your chance while you have the health to go and do what you would like to do. Now, your slow-go years, that's kind of in the middle, and that's whenever you're going to start slowing down just a little bit. Maybe your health is starting to deplete over time and you're not able to go and do all the things you would like to do. That's what we call the slow-go years. So things are easing back just a little bit. And then finally, towards the tail end of your life, you're going to have what we call the no-go years. Whenever you simply either don't have the energy to go, you don't have the health to go, or perhaps your resources have been spent on the front end doing the things you would like to do. So maybe you don't have as much to spend on fun at the end of life. And if you do it really well, typically you'll spend most of your fun money up front in retirement while you have the health and the opportunity to do it, and then have less on the back end for those things just have enough for your expenditures and for your healthcare costs. So whenever we think about how your health ties into your decision to retire, evaluate it for yourself. How are you doing? Do you have different concerns or maybe family history that is at play here that could shorten your lifespan? Even for the average American, it's 77 and a half years. If you retire at 70, again, that's only 7 more years of life that you can go and enjoy, and hopefully you're healthy at that point. So that's the second reason. Your health is something to consider in your decision and timing around retirement. The third reason to retire as soon as possible is to either build, rebuild, or re-engage in different relationships. Perhaps that's relationships with a spouse. Perhaps it's relationships with your kids. Perhaps it's relationships at your church or nonprofit, something in your community that you value and want to spend time doing. Regardless, you have the opportunity now to either rebuild or rekindle different relationships that either you've had in the past or start new ones that you want to begin. So relationships are something that's big. And what I would say here is if you're trying to retire soon, make sure that you're starting to build these relationships before retirement. So don't just hop into retirement, stop working completely, especially if all of your relationships are at work. Don't do this before you've built outside relationships. Start kindling those beforehand, start rebuilding those beforehand so that you have some sort of smooth transition into retirement with your relationships. But I want to make sure that you place a priority on this, because when it comes to fulfillment in retirement, doing the things that you want to do with the people that you care about is actually where the fulfillment comes from. Even if you go and do the best things in the world, travel around the world, see the greatest places, and you don't get to do that with the people that you want to be with, then it might not be as fulfilling. So take time to emphasize your relationships, prioritize them, and value them, especially with your family and also your friends, and perhaps even your local charities, nonprofits, your churches, whatever is valuable to you. The fourth reason to retire as soon as possible is because your peak fulfillment years, there's been a lot of studies on this, but your peak fulfillment years are going to be somewhere between your 50s and your 70s. If we look here at this chart, we can see that early on in life, we probably have a little bit more fulfillment whenever we're in our youth. But as we get into the real world, we can see that as a job comes about and just careers take place, our fulfillment goes down a little bit over time simply because it's a rude awakening in some sense. We went from childhood, went from college, went from different things that were fun. Now we have some responsibility that we've got to take care of. But what you can see is over time, that fulfillment simply increases. You might have a little midlife crisis here or there in your mid to late 40s, but once you get to 50 plus, so 55 or older, you can see this shoot up in terms of your peak satisfaction. Now, this was a study that was done, but it does point out something really important. If we think that your peak satisfaction in life, your peak fulfillment in life is going to be from your mid 50s through 70, what does that mean in terms of your retirement? Why would you work all the way through those years if that's going to be your prime years for being most fulfilled in life? It would actually make sense to retire earlier so that you can reach that peak satisfaction, that peak fulfillment, and actually use your time for what's most valuable and fun for you. So don't jeopardize these most fulfilling years for something that might not be as valuable, such as work. Now, whenever we think about these 4 reasons for retiring as soon as possible, it kind of helps fill out the 3 P's of retirement, which are purpose, passion, and people. Again, I never recommend anyone retire unless they know what they're going to do and why they're going to do it in retirement. I hear horror stories of people that retire, end up lonely and miserable because they didn't have a plan for the non-financial side of things. So the first step and what this will do is help build out your purpose. Analyze why you want to retire and what you're going to do. The next thing is what are you passionate about? Maybe you have a new hobby you want to pursue. Maybe you have some new exploration you want to go on. Find something that you're passionate about so that you can continue doing it over and over again. And finally, the people that you're with. Again, we've talked on this already, but the relationships around you are going to be some of the most important and fulfilling parts of retirement. So the 3 P's of a fulfilling retirement are purpose, passion, and people. And what you've got to understand is whenever you are trying to retire and achieve these different 3 P's of a fulfilling retirement, the question is what if those 3 P's are met whenever you are actually still working? So maybe you find your purpose through work. Maybe you find your work to be passionate, something you're passionate about. You really enjoy it. And maybe the people at work that you're with, maybe they're actually the fun people that you want to be around. So you enjoy the relationships that you have there. If those things are already happening at work, retirement might not be right for you. And that's okay. Not everybody has to retire. Not everyone has to do this the way that I've just described. But if you can find those three things, those three P's outside of work, it might be time to retire. So as you continue to analyze your retirement timing and when you're going to retire, consider these four things. That way you can make the most of your retirement years, live in peak fulfillment for as long as you possibly can. And what I would encourage you to do is ask someone who's gone before you and see what they might say. Typically, they're going to say, man, I wish I would have retired sooner. If you need help building out your plan, you can simply click the link down in the description below to schedule a quick conversation with me. We can talk more about what you've got going on and see if there's any way that I would be able to help. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.